How do you see artificial intelligence and its role in the present and in the future?
Okay, so I think artificial intelligence is going to touch many facets of our life. With IBM, we believe in really augmented intelligence, which is applying AI capability combined with human intelligence to really form cognitive solutions and cognitive business. So I think it can help us do things that humans don't do as well, such as ingest large amounts of information very, very quickly. So I think it has a huge role to play in many facets of our life, whether it's healthcare, education, understanding government regulations or tax law with more rigor, and making recommendations for actions that should be taken. I think in the future, you're going to see augmented intelligence and cognitive systems do things like drive our vehicles potentially, and provide even better capabilities in medicine and all facets of our life.
You anticipated some of my questions. Which human activities can be digitalized and in the future? So in the future, the AI can handle them.
Yeah, I think when you think about
everything.
I think it's always going to come down to what do you want computers to do versus humans to do. So I'll give you some simple examples today. We've gone through a revolution in manufacturing where we've mechanized with robots just manufacturing jobs. But in the future, data-intensive roles. Take a look at a doctor as an example. A doctor makes a diagnosis based on his experience or her experience. I've done this for 20 years and this is what I see. Whereas a system of medicine that is augmented by Watson would look at all of the evidence that is available and make recommendations for maybe novel treatments that a doctor might say, I would never have thought of using that because I haven't read that journal or that article or seen that very recently, right? And I think artificial intelligence can add that value to a doctor, simply allow them to make better decisions because they have now access to more information.
So we'll have Dr. Watson.
We'll have Dr. Watson. We have Watson working today with many institutions like Sloan Kettering in the United States to actually work with doctors to look at difficult cases to make, like I said, novel and unique recommendations with the evidence, by the way, of why it's making those recommendations. So a doctor can actually look at an answer and say, it can't be that. Look at the evidence and say, well, maybe it is. And that is something we can try. So I think that's really the power of that capability.
IBM also signed recently some partnerships in the auto industry and in the financial industry. So yes. Will Watson drive our cars or manage our bank account?
Well, I think, it really is, it depends on your imagination and where business leaders will want to take it. But if I think of the automotive industry and putting cognitive capability into a vehicle, so a car today has over 200 million lines of code in it. It is, to me, a very expensive, personalized device in the making. So are you in the business of making cars, or are you in the business of delivering a unique driver experience? Right? And I think as we go into the future, the ability to personalize many aspects of your driving experience, the ride, how you like to do it, the route you take, right? Think about today, we take a route to work or on a trip or to get to dinner based on traffic. What if you're very tired and you can get your car and tell it, take me on the most scenic route, because I just need to relax, and have your GPS map that route out. So I think there's different ways that you can improve the driver experience in the future.
Will Watson drive the car?
I think that we have a lot of investments being made in the industry in autonomous driverless vehicles. I think cognitive capability, or AI, is not just about the routes you take, but it's the decisions that you will have to make in the future. As a human being, I'll use this example. If I'm coming to an intersection and the light changes to yellow, I have a choice. I can stop, or I can accelerate slightly, still within the law, and beat the light. And so we have to have artificial intelligence capability to make those decisions in vehicles. And I think that's something that we still need to be worked on. So I think we can have Watson drive cars in the future, and it'll do a lot more as well.
So what is Watson today in this landscape competing with Google and Amazon?
We take a different approach. So Watson is a combination of many different technologies with many different APIs. It is really designed as, like I said, an augmented cognitive systems or augmented intelligence, where it is trained, and it's the industry specificity that we provide in Watson to allow it to understand the language of business. I think some of our competitors are using AI and taking a more general approach, and that will solve different kinds of problems than a lot of the industry vertical problems. It has its own language, its own rules, certain nuances and inference that has to come with that human expertise.
So Watson is more for corporations, and Google Assistant and Alexa more for consumers?
Today, I think that's what you're seeing is our focus is really industry. Our solutions are therefore going to be cognitive in industry, and our platform is cloud. I think a lot of our competitors are experimenting with AI to help with consumers to turn on your sprinklers or the lights in your home and to do things like that. And that's wonderful, by the way. But it's very different to use AI for general consumer interaction than it is for vertical business. As I said, there is an industry language and nuances, and it's steeped in data. A lot of the cognitive capability we deliver is based on data that is not available on the public web. 80% of information is not searchable. It's in customer records or operational systems or transactional systems that our clients want to keep because the insights in that data is their own competitive advantage. So our
Commercial
approach,
secrets.
yes, it's trade secrets, and we choose to say, hey, keep your insights private. We will not use those insights to train someone else's cognitive system.
Artificial intelligence is more of a concept from science fiction, but in the end, it's a capability about cloud computing systems today. Where are we now and where we can go with this?
Well, I think, it started as playing Jeopardy, the game show Jeopardy, and that was one technology. It was really called deep question and answer, deep Q&A. And so today we have expanded those APIs, application programming interfaces, to well over 30 APIs, 50 different technologies. And so it has evolved to be able to understand natural language and discovery and vision, conversation, right? These things are very, very important. I think cloud as a platform is necessary because the data that is going to be the fuel for cognitive will be private data, licensed data like weather data or population data, and public data that is available on social media, as an example. So it's more than just capacity, which I think is going to enable a lot more cognitive systems, but we've come a long way. I don't think we're anywhere near the Terminator kind of scenario.
So cloud is the brain and Watson is the soul, the mind.
Well, I think the cloud platform is an enabler. It's a technology, is obviously an enabler for business, right? So I see cloud as an enabling platform for many of these applications.
Give us some examples of what Watson do besides being a doctor.
Well, we've actually worked with H&R Block in the United States. We've just come through tax season. The United States has a very complex tax code, and one of the things we've done with Watson is be able to apply it to that tax code so that as consumers sit down with an agent at H&R Block, we can ask English questions in verbal language, type that in, and have Watson then go through and say, here's where the deduction should be, and here are suggestions for things you should do. Well, it's trying to maximize. We always say you need to win your tax refund, right? And so it's about trying to maximize the refunds for our citizens, but also make recommendations based on their situation of where they should invest and things that they should do in the future.
Our personal consultant.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So we will see an artificial intelligence that is conscious in our life?
I don't know, but I don't think so. And my personal feeling is that
You said about Terminator.
Well, I don't think that's going to happen in our lifetime. To be honest, I think that we are many decades away from true AI systems that can have morals and reason and do all of these kinds of things. Yes, to be sentient. And when there's a human consequence, you typically don't turn over control to a computer system. And that's what I like about augmented intelligence is it provides evidence-based analysis based on all of the available data, based on the knowledge of the industry that we have trained it with, but then it provides that insight to human beings or to control systems to make those decisions. So,
what is the biggest challenge for Watson developers and creators of bots or whatever use Watson?
I think it's their imagination. Watson is a very open platform, and so when we developed it, we knew we were not going to come up with all the great ideas. And so developers can use those open APIs to create applications of the future. It's about really understanding what you want to do with it. It's many of the APIs that are available today are from IBM, some are from our partners, and our application strategy really is to have many developers, large and small, as well as our partner companies, as well as IBM, build these applications on our stack. So it comes down to, I think, in developers just adopting the platform and using their imagination to say what problems do they really want to solve.
Well, IBM and Apple have a strong partnership today, but not about artificial intelligence. We will see Watson and Siri make a baby.
I think that our partnership with Apple is really around, they've got tremendous recognition in the consumer and devices. And I think you find that in the enterprise space where IBM has got tremendous relationships and experience bringing that kind of mobile capability and that personalization experience that Apple is so good at into the enterprise. I always say that today the experience that you have when you're at home on your phone and interaction with that device is the same experience you expect now going to the office. So we've gone from talking about B2B, business to business, business to consumer. I call it business to individual. Everything is B to I today because of that expectation. So it's a pretty good marriage between Apple in the consumer space and what we can do to bring that user experience into the enterprise.
So we will see some Watson technologies coming to Apple or Siri?
Well, we are certainly working with them to develop applications that can be used in enterprise, mobile applications for the device. And one of the things Apple has taught us, of course, is they are the masters of user experience. And so making solutions easily, very usable, best of breed, how you want to interact with your device, teaching us that experience, and then us bringing what we call enterprise strong deployment to these applications.
I also read recently a news about IBM and ABB coming with a strong partnership. We will see Watson commanding a factory.
I think, like I said, it really can be used in many, many different areas. We focus on 12 different vertical industries, and all of our solutions, as we come out with our partners, we'll focus on automating and adding cognition to many different processes. If you think about the complexity of a factory and the different trade-offs that can be made to optimize throughput, we can use cognitive capability to help model that. If you think about many different kinds of industries, manufacturing, agriculture, the use of cognitive capability in the farming industry. Now you can have many sensors in the soil. You can use.
So a farmer can use Watson.
We have farmers that use Watson today, looking at data for moisture, drone technology that flies over the crops to look and see for signs of arid land, and then determining where you should water and saving water distribution for large crops. That's a tremendous value. Yeah.
Dell secretly invested in over 70 startups. They showed us recently. Where does IBM invest now? What are the technologies? besides Watson and augmented reality?
Well, certainly, I think a lot of our investment is in cognitive capability in Watson, but we have a very open developer strategy. We work with thousands of ISVs and developers. We have a new digital business group that brings that developer experience. I think developers are the builders, and data scientists actually are the builders of these cognitive applications of the future. So it's very important that we bring our technology to them the way they are used to getting it, which is a lot of self-service, online code that is available through different websites and being able to download that stuff automatically. We have hackathons and meetups and code off days that we do, certainly all around Watson. So we are investing a tremendous amount in the developer and ISV community.
I asked about startups because I want to ask you if IBM is considering investing in Romania in some startups.
Well, I mean, I don't know about Romania specifically. I do know you've got Startup Nation here, which as I've been here, this is my first time to Romania, and I have been very excited about the energy that is around Startup Nation, and you have great infrastructure, you have some great schools, so I think there's a great opportunity for Romania to be a technology hub maybe for Central Eastern Europe or even broader Europe. So I'm excited from what I've seen so far. I look forward to our teams here working with those institutions and those startup companies, and we have the programs to do that.
How do you see the world in 2020?
So we have a study we do every year called the 5 in 5, which is 5 technologies that we think will change our lives fundamentally in 5 years. So I would say right now the 5 things are one, the theme is really making the invisible world visible. So the first would be using cognitive capability to analyze your speech as a predictor of onset of disease. So in certain diseases, as you start to experience them, your speech patterns will change. And we can be able to analyze that and maybe give us some early indication. Vision, being able to see beyond what your eyes can see. Think of a self-driving vehicle looking through dense fog to identify black ice that's out there. We have a tremendous amount of focus on Internet of Things and instrumenting the world so that we can actually understand more of its complexity beyond what is just there in front of us. So being able to use all of that data to model the world more closely and therefore drive innovation around that. We will see the use of nanoscale technology and microbiology, where we can actually analyze your blood as an indication of disease and being able to see that.
No need to go to doctor.
Perhaps, right? And then lastly, I think the 5th one was around, again, sensors that can now test the environment. And so think of sensors that might be on the exhaust pipe of a car and can measure emissions automatically and send warnings to the driver and the owners as the car needs maintenance to improve emissions. So those are things that are very real. And I think in the next few years, you'll start to see solutions around those things.
I know IBM has a strong security division, so I want to ask you to comment the recent hacking attacks that happened recently.
Yeah, that was, and that was an interesting one because, there's not evidence necessarily that it was a phishing attack where somebody had to open an attachment. But our cybersecurity organization, with our Watson Cyber Solutions, we identified that hole in the Windows platform, that vulnerability back in March, and we advised customers about how to patch it and make sure that your operating systems are up to date. And our approach to security really is that the hackers will always keep trying. So you must be very diligent in keeping ahead of them. So you've got to instrument everything at the physical network, application, data layer. You've got to make identity the new perimeter. You've got to instrument everything and be able to look for anomalies, and that's one of the things we do in our Security Operations Center, where we monitor millions and millions of attacks per day and are able to make recommendations. But fundamentally, our approach to security is about the proper and rigorous training of your staff to understand the policies and to constantly be just vigilant in staying ahead of this. So I think we have a great security strategy. We understand it, and but you got to be aware that the hackers will keep trying, and they will get smarter. So we must get smarter.
Is there
ahead
a greater
of them.
risk because of everything getting connected, because of Internet of Things?
Yeah, I think that is certainly a risk, and we're very aware of that, and we're very cognizant of that. And I think when it comes to Internet of Things and devices, the real trick there will be what I call lightweight protocols for implementing security solutions at the edge or on the device. Just to put it in simple terms, that the challenge is power. These little devices don't have significant power, and every time it does a send or receive, that uses power. Well, security protocols require multiple sends and receives back and forth for validation and authentication. So I think that's where the challenge is today in Internet of Things and security. There are lightweight protocols. I'm
asking you because we had a factory closed.
Yeah, there were no factory. I understand that, and I think
because of the attack.
Yeah, and I think that was again the same WannaCry attack, and I think again it's about vigilant training of staff. It's about understanding and keeping up with those patches, right, that are in your operating system. That is very, very key. You've got to have a strategy that keeps ahead, because all of us as manufacturers, we find these things, we understand there are vulnerabilities, and we will fix them, but clients then need to apply those fixes in a very, very real-time basis to stay ahead.
They have to want it.
They have to understand how important it is. I think this will wake up a lot of companies to realize that security is not something that you need to get to in the future. It is something you have to have fundamental at the fabric of your operation.
So one last question. What is so important and I didn't ask you?
I think you asked me all of the right questions. I think the only thing I just would add is I think that IBM, as we look to the future, we've transformed our company. We're not the same company we were 100 years ago or 50 years ago or even 10 years ago. And I think we understand this cloud environment. We understand that developers are important. We understand the power of the capabilities that are coming very, very fast. And that it's really going to be that partnership between business and technology that hopefully will make all of our lives better.
So as a conclusion, Watson will fight cyber crimes, will help farmers, will help factories, will be our doctor, our taxman.
And our teachers.
And our teachers, but in the end, humans are the ones that need to protect themselves.
I think humans are the ones that at the end of the day need to decide, how best to leverage this technology to improve the quality of life, right? Because that's really what it is. You only have one life to live. You got to live it to the max. And if technology can help improve that quality of life for you, your family, and the next generation, I think that's all goodness.
It depends to us. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.